welcome back to Flow State Reactions. I am Miss Starry, and I am here yet again to react to The Lord of the Rings. And this is the behind the scene appendices for The Return of the King. And we are now on Weta Digital. Okay, thank you guys so much for continuing to last in this long journey. I am just really, just delighted to no end watching these appendices videos. And I'm just so glad that a few of you agree with me. You know what I'm saying? You understand the sentiment. So let's just go ahead and get into the next one, shall we? All right, here we go. Without further ado, 1, 2, 3. Let's flow. Weta Digital. Who's first?
I think the story of Weta Digital, as it's grown over the last 3 films, has been a pretty amazing journey. You had this group of people who each year were just getting better at what they were doing. They were able to build on the experiences of the year before. The infrastructure, the organization, the pipelines were all, the software that was being written was all helping the following year as a much stronger base.
Really, the first film made us able to make the second film, and the second film made us able to do the third film.
Yeah, he was able to come up with even cooler stuff for the third film because of the heartache and hardship that Weta Digital went through, the 4 years prior.
Most facilities, when they get handed over, one of the major blockbusters, it's a big show if you have 200 shots.
In the Fellowship of the Ring, we did 540 shots. For the Two Towers, we did 799 shots, and for the Return of the King, we did 1,488 shots.
What was most incredible about Return of the King as compared to the first 2 films was just the spectrum of work that we had to do. We had to cover not only creatures and characters, but environments and huge armies and things that got destroyed. Everywhere you were looking, you had to add something to the scene to make it real.
We knew early on we were going to have a lot of work to finish this movie in a year.
When you're in the thick of Return of the King with 1,500 shots, suddenly the 550 that we had on Fellowship seems like a picnic.
Right. I just don't understand how they can do it all at once like
the
this.
Battle of Pelennor Fields, which is
insane.
Not really the climax of the Return of the King, but it is a very big central set piece kind of battle.
Mission Impossible, for real.
Visualization is kind of an advanced storyboard where you use a computer, you animate things, and you have the cameras, and you create a pre-visualization of each shot.
Yeah, they needed these previds because there's no way in the world.
Direction choices or acting choices before they're on set and have to commit to a lot of difficult visual effects.
Yeah, and even with all of this preparation, they still wound up redoing everything in the moment. Redoing a lot of things.
Where they sat down and decided how the battle was going to take place.
The Pelennor Field sequence originally started out with about 50,000 characters, but even as we started to lay them out in the environment, we realized 50,000 was a pretty small number of guys once you put them in this huge environment with a big city in front of them. So when Christian started laying out the battle strategy, we realized we needed quite a lot more characters than that. So as we started to increase the numbers in order to create shots that looked good, we ended up with, upwards 350,000 characters.
It isn't flashy previews that we doctor up and give, effects to and, run through any sort of, 2D compositing package. It's just fast, interactive stuff that can just get the bare blueprint of the shot out there for the people who really have to start doing the work and, start making it look good. I have these trolls sort of towing them in, and then they actually go around the back and start, sort of loading the boulders on,
Yeah.
And so it's just, the orcs are kind of cranking the machinery, and then
so
the trolls.
They would just sit in a room and quietly step through Pelennor Fields. And so what it was is they are off on their own.
It's just so strange because I see Peter sitting in a lot of different rooms all the time. You know what I mean? And he's sitting in front of the camera, and he's like out there hands-on directing and at locations. And
feeling of not wanting to know what the hell he was doing there, because it could be really scary.
Yeah.
And then after a few seconds, the guys on, the commander guys can sort of be doing a bit of and the things are one by one the guys are squashed, because that was quite effective. Rather than have them surviving, it's a way in which you could shoot blue screen guys who kind of do it, and you just put them in 2D on sort of CG horses and just very quickly sort of have them squash. All right. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Next room, next meeting. Oh, look at his face.
We probably thought that we were up for about 50 to 80 shots in Pelennor Fields, and it turned out to be, when they finished on previous with the film, about 250 at the end of the day. And yes, things did get bigger and bigger.
Peter turned over the entire sequence of Pelennor Fields at once. And we hadn't seen a lot of it from the previous team. And so we finally got to see the full cut of it.
The turnover is us looking at the sequence as a whole so we understand the context of what we're trying to do, and then going through the shots shot by shot so Peter can tell us specifically what he wants in each of the shots. And we'll bring a crew into that room. We'll have the heads of all the departments, camera, model, animation, everyone that would benefit from hearing what Peter has to say directly.
Look at all these people.
It was huge. It was all gray shaded creatures, early stages of animation.
Okay.
And he turned it over and it was just like, there you go. Yeah. Good
go.
luck.
Enjoy.
The kind of shots that Peter was sort of formulating.
I'm trying to tell you.
It was almost documentary cameraman riding on the back of a horse underneath elephant legs, and suddenly, boom, there goes somebody getting stepped on.
And instead of being really excited, I think they were just really overwhelmed that we were going to finish this, and we had 5 months left, and we had this huge sequence to
5 months left.
Everybody walked out of there the quietest.
Did you get more people on the team?
I think that was a turning point at Weta. You know, everybody just walked out of there and like just, okay, we got to get busy. You know?
Yeah. I mean, like,
you just leave this room going, what the hell did we just do?
Right.
What you know, what is, you know,
like, what is he thinking?
It would take you a few hours to like come to grips with what just happened.
Right.
One guy sent out email that just had a path to this really long sequence, and he had 3 words: "Oh my God!" ... We're just like, and then you hit play and watch it in the privacy of your own office, going, you know, white knuckle at the keyboard.
I would just be speechless too. Like, really? This is. Peter.
So the big meeting, Peter comes in, conference room, we look at all the shots.
It looks so good, though, I have to say.
Sticks in there 2 cents.
It was remarkable.
I remember that we were sitting there and we were talking about the attack on the ministry more than anything, and what the armies were going to be doing, where they were coming from, where they all, you know, played in this field. There was no such field in reality, and I can remember thinking,
I couldn't believe my eyes. I can't wait to watch it again.
Make that. And I never for a moment thought that would be totally a 3D environment.
Well, as soon as we finished post-production on film 2 back in November 2002, we started work with Alan Lee. I sat down with Alan Lee at a computer and designed Pelennor Fields.
Front and center.
The actual full Pelennor Fields doesn't exist and never did exist. So the only option that we really had was to create it in a computer. We created a virtual location. In fact, Alan Lee, you know, drove a lot of the creation of the virtual landscape. He had the whole Pelennor Fields environment absolutely in his head, obviously, from the day.
I thought didn't we do a video where they were at Pelennor Fields?
Knows this world so well that he was able to give us reference for the basic layout.
Like a battle scene at Pelennor
everything
Fields?
was in relation to
And it was once a mine? Like a military
arena.
In order to create the environment, I
battleground?
created a map.
It had like mines? Wasn't that Pelennor Fields?
Drawings, so that we could go into that 3D environment and look around, see what we would see from any direction.
We had to build these environments as environments that we could actually move around in 3 dimensions. So the whole idea of a map painting got extended into these incredible virtual sets. Alan Lee and Jeremy Bennett were art directors on the show, and what they did that was really so amazing, so I think art direction kind of reached new heights, is rather than just laying out conceptually what they thought everything should be like, they really got involved in figuring out specifically what the backgrounds and the scenes and the environments needed to be. So Alan and Jeremy would get very involved with going out on location, photographing things that represented starting points that we could use for look or lighting or pieces of terrain. So we called those tiles. They're basically a movie version of what people do with their cameras. If you're in a place and you want to take a big, long photograph of a whole vista, you shoot a series of separate photographs and you kind of join them all together in your album, you know, like a montage.
Oh.
And we do that with the film cameras, and we just stand there with the camera on a tripod, and we just photograph a lot of different places. And then in the computer, they can join it all together, and it becomes a sort of a cyclorama that you can use in the background if you ever need any more shots.
What?
Was stitched together from multiple locations.
Yeah.
Twizel was really the main one where we shot the live-action horse charging. We photographed mountains for the Minister Earth Mountains.
I love that. I love seeing that.
In Queenstown, which are particularly
you
jagged.
Just added in.
Mountains. We shot endless amounts of photography of grasslands around Twizel, which form the grass, and we put all this together like a giant jigsaw puzzle.
And then it was my job, once those were kind of in place, to take these little bits and pieces of photographs and put them into a comp and build mountains, build hills, build connecting landscapes, build the Mordor Mountains, build a sky dome that sat around this whole thing.
We took all those elements and put them together as the background around Pelennor Fields. We shot probably about 100 skies around Wellington to try to come up with the right combinations of clouds and skies.
The right combination of clouds. Okay.
Just lived over Pelennor Fields for the entire battle.
There was a point where the cloud reigned. It came out of Mordor, but a couple of miles either side of Minas Tirith, I think you could see clear sky, and it certainly helped with conveying that feeling of depth in the environment.
It really did. You don't even think about that. That they had to actually put thought into
blanket of cloud that would
what to do
allow
with the
light
clouds.
coming in from either direction. We quickly came to realize that meant we were going to have two suns on Pelennor Fields. So if we were shooting one way and needed backlight, we had sun. If we were shooting the other way and needed backlight, we had sun. The thing that threw us off, though, is those suns were in the north and the south, not the east and the west. But that's the way it goes.
You needed the bright.
That is so interesting.
Contrast.
They had to have a creative vision for every single aspect of the movie. Everything we see was intentional.
That once you turn into a circle, it became a world that we could sit a camera in the center of, move it around, and see anywhere we wanted to go.
What that allowed us to do was to have flexibility to drop in any kind of shot, to drop the camera down to the ground, or we could fly it above the next tier. We could go anywhere in Pelennor Fields and set up our shots and make them work.
And I just know that 20 years ago, what they are doing digitally was revolutionary.
He really
so that's impressive too.
Tried to make something that just
they were doing a lot of things that just had not been done before.
The great thing with the technology that we devised over the years is that we were able to make continual improvements to it. And obviously the massive software that was written for Lord of the Rings was a good case, because we wrote this to enable us to have these computer-generated armies, which would behave naturally and look natural and look like they were replicated bits of computer programming.
Massive was really designed with the capabilities required for Return of the King in mind. Dealing with hundreds of thousands of characters.
So I knew that it couldn't just be a simple crowd system for guys just running around and throwing things at each other, because I already had read the scripts, all three scripts, and I knew exactly what was coming up. Well, I knew kind of what was coming up.
A massive, on Pelennor, the thing that got probably the most incredible was doing the massive horses for the Rohirrim charge, because we had 6,000 horses and riders.
When you're doing thousands of horses, you don't have enough labor and enough animators, good animators, to animate thousands of horses.
I know, right?
So you have to come up with some system that enables you to do that. We used massive, but you still need to create that motion. And the way you create that motion is through a technique called motion capture.
Did motion capture the horses too?
An agent for massive. So the horses, they have to do a number of different motions. In fact, the horses, we scripted those 450 motions. So we'd have particular actions of the horse standing still, moving forward, moving right at 45 degrees.
Lord have mercy, bringing tears to my eyes. It is just outrageous.
Cantering, 450 combinations of those. So when you see 6,000
they literally had to build everything from scratch.
They're all looking like unique horses.
You've got orcs coming at you all over the place.
So they had to create a software that was just for the horses themselves. Because I remember they went into what they created for the armies. Remember that?
The motion capture
they did the same thing
team
with the horses.
Movement and refines it. Just kind of irons out any kinks that might still be there. Then it will go to the massive team.
Yeah,
Massive,
and then they'll do the AI to it.
The background. In some cases, you've got thousands and thousands of massive horses in the show.
Right.
It's all digital. You also have the secondary task, which was entirely animation, which was dangerous horse falls and deaths. These various violent actions, these violent horse takedowns, were then done by the animators, and we basically gave them carte blanche to.
I have no idea how they did this.
Create
and the amount of time that they had, you know.
Painful.
That's what makes it
impacts.
even more impressive is that they didn't have
The good
time.
news was that no horses were harmed.
For a lot of time, you know.
The bad news is that a lot of animators were.
There was a certain amount of that.
Horses weren't harmed, but the animators were.
To shoot real horses against green screen. A lot of them were CG, but some of them we wanted to be real. Some of them had actors on board as well. I was running out of time. I couldn't shoot all this material myself. So I thought the best person to shoot it would be Jim Rigel, who's our visual effects supervisor. And I thought, well, if Jim shoots it, he can't complain about what he's getting.
Okay.
In retrospect, it was brilliant of Peter to allow us to do this because, you know, he's on set. And, you know, we always grumble about later, it's elements, you know, and we didn't have a blue screen, and now we have to do this, and look at that, now we got to get that, we got to roto her hair off that tree, oh my God. You know, and he puts us out on the set. And the first thing we do is go, screw the blue screen, you know, just go for it, you know, we're running out of time, let's go here, you know. And he puts us, you know, in just a small version of his seat.
So
I heard all of that.
Importantly, he knows exactly what he needs to get to make the scene.
They did the same thing. I love that. It's like, we don't have time, let's go. Let's do it.
So you just sort of roll down, Mumakil walks over, and then get back up. I mean, you actually got up quite nicely,
So they took the previous cameras, and Jim and his crew went out and shot a bunch of live action horses and riders running through the set.
We basically did our best to sort of reference those previs to get the camera moves correct. So when I went out onto the green screen battlefield, you would know to follow a horse for a while, and then at 2 seconds in, tilt up quickly just to the sky, knowing that you were going to put a giant Mumakil in there that was going to swoop back down and take out the horseman.
Right.
And we'd be working till, you know, midnight, 1, 2 in the morning.
Okay.
After shooting all day.
Yeah.
And then present them to Peter the next day, and we're like, okay, and then this is like, you know, the shot is like this, and I was trying to find an element to work for here, and this didn't quite work. So he's like, not so easy, is it, guys? You know?
Okay. Right. Right.
He's right.
The live action quick shots enabled us to layer in computer-generated horses and computer-generated riders. So when you see a horse stumbling and falling, a rider going flying, that's
definitely an overwhelming task.
Generated a rider, computer-generated. But we
for everyone involved. I like seeing the other people try, you know.
Riders in lanes, so that you had places to put these computer-generated horses and make it look realistic.
All of a sudden, you know, a couple of those live action elements mixed in with the CG and assisted, you know, with massive behind that.
Right.
Like, that's real. The shot looks real now.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Mumakil really come into their own in film 3. It's a little bit like Gollum popping up in film 1, and then, you know, you really get to know them in film 2. Pete held the Mumakil off for film 3, and we spent a lot of time getting those guys right.
Every department is working together trying to solve a lot of these problems. The animators have to animate the weight of it to make it look realistic. The creature department has to give the muscles dynamics that look realistic. The shots department has to give it lighting to make it look the size that it is. In order to give that sense of weight, the compositing department has to create big dust clouds every time that the Mumakil lands on the ground.
Dust clouds.
It's a process that covers the entire facility.
Yeah.
Of course, one of the most extreme conditions was the shot where the two Mumakil collapse into each other. That was a shot that we'd worked on for months and months and months to get all the details right, because there was an amazing amount of effort that went into the animation and the creature work. When those two Mumakils collapse, and there's bones breaking and muscles collapsing, and just a lot of effort into making that believable.
That shot was completely done. In in our eyes.
We were pretty happy with it.
Okay.
Peter looked at it.
He said, he sort of said something he's never said before. He goes, and normally he's like, not, fine.
He said,
And
everyone mouth just dropped. Like, what are you talking about?
Right.
And Peter remembered a better angle. He spent, a long time with the previs guys, prevising what he wanted Pelennor Field's battle to look like. And he created these really nice camera angles.
Are you kidding me? He wanted a different angle?
And he remembered them because he obviously was thinking about it.
It turns out we had missed one aspect of it, which was the camera move. In shooting the live action foregrounds for that shot, we got locked into a camera move that worked for the live action that didn't quite have the same impact for the shot the way we had prevised it.
You always had the impact right in camera.
Okay, you guys, I'm going to go ahead and stop the editing for the Weta Digital Part 1 right here, and we will pick up with Part 2 next week, okay? Thank you so much for joining me. I know it's kind of a weird place to stop it, but they were going to start talking more and more about the reasons why they had to change the camera angle. I just couldn't believe that one. I was... My goodness, they have been working on that for several months, and then for Peter to say the camera angle is wrong. Oh my goodness, I would have had to flip some tables over for that one. I don't know how they were able to maintain their composure, but anyway, you'll see more of that next week. Yeah, this was definitely a good video. I didn't even realize about how they did motion capture in order to recreate the huge army in was it the Two Towers video? And so they had to use motion capture as well in order to create those thousands and thousands of horses. And it was just really interesting to see. It was interesting to see them capture all of that, like literally bringing the horse into the soundstage and going through the motions. It was just so amazing to see, to be able to witness the innovation that had to take place in order to even make the movie. Like, I just can't get over it. I really can't. And they couldn't get over it either. The people who were actually working for Peter couldn't get over it either. Remember the part where, I forget his name, but Peter was in the office having a meeting, of course, and he asked something of them that was just outrageous. And they're like nodding and just like, okay, acquiescing. And then Peter leaves the room and the man just kind of like rolls his eyes and then like holds his head. I mean, that really just said it all to me, everybody who was involved in this project felt like it was, just really a mission impossible for themselves. Their own personal task was like a mission impossible every day. The woman, when she was recapping, how everyone was feeling after another meeting with Peter, where they were just like, oh my God, it's like doomsday. Like, what do we do? You know what I mean? I don't know. It's just very interesting to see. And it was also interesting to see that when Peter gave the director hat to someone else, that they were coming up against the same obstacles that Peter had to deal with. And so they were able to see firsthand, like, okay, well, maybe, maybe this is just what it is. You know what I mean? You just have to learn how to thrive in that chaos, which is very interesting that they could thrive in the chaos for so long. It's one thing to thrive in chaos in a couple of weeks, a couple of months, but for several months, like years, to just, always be feeling like you're behind schedule. You know what I'm saying? Like you're behind your deadline. And that's a lot to ask, but they pulled it off. I mean, what can you say? In the beginning, they talked about how it's like 200 shots for a major production, and they said it's like 500 and something shots for the Fellowship of the Ring, and then what was it, like 800 shots for the Two Towers, and then like 1,400 plus shots for the Return of the King. So we can't stress enough just how daunting of a task this was. And it's just fun. It's fun to just witness the miracle as it unfolded for them. I just really like seeing the facial expressions of the cast and crew, because they are just worn out. But, you know, they really do stretch themselves in order to get this done. So I do appreciate that. There was another man who made another face too. Because it's just so outrageous. Peter is something else. And he knows it's outrageous too. So, you know, what can you say? All right, you guys, I'm just going to go ahead and wrap this up right here. And like I said, we will continue on with part 2 of Weta Digital next week. Okay? Thank you for joining me. Until next time, let's flow.